All right, so if you're a smoker who's going to be puffing away this festive season, remember, cigarette ends are litter. Now, most smokers mindlessly discard cigarette butts without considering the consequences of trillions of them being tossed away every year. Now, waste removal and cycling company WRAP is sponsoring the Kick Butt initiative and has made giant cigarette butts out of old telephone poles. It's placing them strategically to try and get people to think before they toss their stompies. WRAP CEO Clive Amsel joins me live from Cape Town now. Hi, Clive. Very good evening to you. Thanks indeed for your time. I mean, what motivated you as a company to start this initiative?
Look, there's so much noise out there with social media and particularly, pollution and global warming. And we really just wanted to get involved in an initiative that was really real and that we could engage people with. And the installations that take place in various locations, they're really very visible but quiet. And it's just really about waking up a consciousness in people out there to look at their habit of flicking a butt recklessly in any place, in any natural environment, and just to take that with them,
if you walk along the beach, for example, or many holiday destinations, you could literally fill a 2-liter bottle with some of these cigarette butts. It'll give you an idea of how much people discard these cigarette butts. But talk to me a bit about the dangers of this, for people to understand why it's not necessary to just dump them the way they do.
Yeah, look, there's 18 million of these butts discarded daily around the world, and around a third of them are only being discarded correctly and in an environmentally friendly place, and that's really ultimately the dump sites that they end up in. But the actual butt contains microfiber plastic called cellulose acetate. It also contains arsenic and nicotine. And what happens normally is the butt will disintegrate over an 18 to 10 year period. Sure. And as it disintegrates, it becomes a very fine microfiber, and that ends up in the rivers and ultimately in our oceans and into the microorganisms, and can even end up in our fish and food. So it ends up in the ecosystem and in the environment quite substantially.
Look, I want to talk about the specific areas where these installations are. Are they specific targets? And, what has the public's response been to this?
Yeah, we started the initiative in the Cape, and we're moving through the country over the year. The initiative has really started in Cape Town and on the beaches in Llandudno, Camps Bay. We're moving over to Blouberg in the next week, and we've been up into certain of the Table Mountain Reserve areas. And we're hoping to move further up into Durban and then up into the Kruger National Park. But the reaction of most people has really been pretty stunned, seeing these things on the beach. But it's just a visualization of what it really looks like. Because they're so tiny, very few people notice them. But they are the biggest pollutant of plastic in the environment that is currently being recorded. The people that we've bumped into have varied reactions. Some of them are shocked, and some really appreciate what we're doing out there. Yeah.
I mean, what should then people do, with the stompies that they have?
Look, at the end of the day, they need to go into the trash can, and there isn't a way to recycle them. But people just take responsibility for them and take them with them. As I said earlier, we're not against smoking at all. It's just people taking responsibility for that butt and taking it with them and disposing it in a dustbin, or in their ashtray in their motor vehicle. I saw some of the shots and your stories on fires at the moment. The extreme fire hazard, especially in the drier periods in the provinces, where people flick them live out of their motor vehicles, and it can cause substantial damage and enormous fires if they're discarded alight.
Talk to us a bit about the rollout plan. I saw just a few moments ago some of the visuals on our screen where you say Cape Town is not an ashtray. Many parts of the country, of course, are not ashtrays too, but you'll move to Durban. But talk us through your rollout plan on how this will roll out, when it will roll out, and specifically, to some areas where you talk about areas that have been affected by drought, where it's very easily, we've seen some of these wildfires spread on the simple basis that somebody just tosses away that stompie and then it causes chaos.
Yes, we're looking to really, we're based in the Cape because we got a sponsorship from that area, and the idea would be to move through the country to the top 10 sort of natural heritage or top 10 nature visit sites where people really go out, walk in those sensitive, the environmentally sensitive areas, and then go and dispose of their cigarette where they're relaxing, whether that be in Takai Forest, even up in some of the botanical gardens in Johannesburg, up in Roodepoort. We're looking to, the rollout will really be by province as we go through the year, and we don't have a definite plan on exactly where we're going to be. It's also quite weather dependent, you know. At the moment, we're trying to focus on the drier, higher risk areas, which is in the Western Cape. You know, Natal has some beautiful areas, Gauteng, even up into the Northern Cape. Yeah, we'll be moving through the provinces as we go.
It almost sounds like,
you know, it's also an international problem. You know, it's a global problem, and I have been approached, and we have been approached by an institution to look at taking this to World Heritage sites across the world. You know, it's a big issue.
It also sounds like a tad bit of a, you know, an anti-smoking campaign, because part of what I saw was that if you haven't started smoking, don't start. So talk us through a bit through that messaging as well.
Look, that campaign is a large cigarette companies campaign that's been launched. It doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing. We are not against smoking at all. People have a right to choose what they want to do with their health, and the idea is really to push people to take or just get a consciousness in place that people can take their butts with them when they do smoke.
Is there any way to recycle them?
To date, as far as we're aware, there isn't, and it's a real global problem. It's really tons of this substance getting into the environment.
Are there specific areas where you've picked up, since you started planning this particular campaign, where you found to be, you know, one of the hotspots for these kinds of areas? I know that you started in Cape Town, so perhaps part of your analysis is there, but has it been drawn to your attention anywhere perhaps where some have said, look, we have got a massive problem here, this is where we really need your help?
Yes, you know, the people tend to be lighting up when they've achieved or been satisfied with something, or relaxing either on a beach, at the summit of a mountain. You know, we've been up onto Lion's Head, and it's really polluted with cigarette butts there. People summit, and some reason they need to jack up, and when they're finished, they throw it down, you know, and that creates a fire risk, and the toxins end up on the mountain. Beaches are very popular for people to have a cigarette and to smoke. And most people jam it into, not most, but you know, we're looking at at least 70% of smokers jam it into the ground and imagine it's disappeared, when in fact it hasn't vanished at all. So we are finding the recreational areas to be, and then also traffic lights. You know, people love to throw them out at a traffic light out of their motor vehicles, and you'll see them in the stormwater drains floating, you know, when it starts to rain.
All right, I hope certainly that this campaign will extend beyond the festive season, because we see quite a lot of this throughout the year. Thank you very much indeed for your time. The CEO of RAP, Clive Amsel, talking to us about, you know, you often see those thousands of cigarette butts that are in different parts. When you're done smoking, you just throw those cigarette butts away, and talking to us a bit about what some of the no-nos are regarding that. Thanks indeed for your time. Let's